Hello, guys. So this is the end of the chapter exercise, and we're looking at this app, and this is what you need to create. And you'll notice that this is very similar to what you did in the previous chapter in the apply assignment, right? So here, the user is allowed to select gender, male or female, right? So that was the case in the previous app, right? But let's click female. Wow. So the user is allowed to select more than one option. That is the difference, right? So that is a difference because in the previous chapter, the end of the chapter assignment, the user was allowed to select only one of the two. So input function needs to change. And the other major difference here is this action button. And the label here is apply changes, right? And the last difference is we do not see any outputs from the get-go, right? And output shows up once you click on this action button, right? So again, this is a major lesson. You can control the frequency of Shiny updates, right? So again, let's try this. You change the input, output does not react until the user clicks, right? So again, um, you can replicate this app by revising the app that you created in the previous chapter, okay? The first part of chapter 3. All right, so let's go to chapter 3. So chapter 3, this was the assignment, and you should have revised this code to. So in the previous chapter, the goal was to make this app more efficient by removing this duplicate, right? Duplicate code using reactive function, right? So again, as you can see here, we're creating two outputs, table and plot. And inside this render function, we have the same code appearing twice, right? So again, let's do this together. You should have done this already. So we're going to copy this code, right? And then we wrap this in reactive function, right? And then copy this code here. And then let's save this to, let's say, data filtered and alt dash, right? And then we can replace this whole thing with data filtered and parentheses. So we have reactive value here. The same here, right? Data filtered and parentheses, right? And then we run this app. All right, there you go, right? So when the user changes input, output changes. So this was the app that you should have made in the previous chapter, right? Now we need to revise this. So okay, let's copy this. Select all, Control C to copy, and then let's go to Files tab here, and then Chapter 3, Part 2. Here, let's create another folder, Shiny App, and then Apply4, click Browse, select Part 2 folder, open, create. Now we have Apply4 folder, and then inside we have app.r. So let's close this out. And so let's replace this default code with the code that we just copied, right? So what you need to do here is radio buttons function. You need to replace this with another function that allows multiple choices, right? So how do we do that? Well, open Shiny cheat sheet and then look under inputs and then look for look how each input shows up in UI. And you can see that right here, right? So it's very similar to radio button, how radio button shows up on the user interface, but it allows more than one option, right? And that function is checkbox group input. So you need to use that instead of radio button. And then make sure that male instead of female is the default value. And also, you need to add action button here, right, in the UI. And action button is right here, and it shows we have input ID and label as the mandatory arguments because they're in bold. right? Maybe not bold, just bigger than the other non-mandatory arguments. All right. And also, reactive function here needs to be replaced with event reactive so that output updates hold off until action button is clicked. And you can go back to the video on section 3.5.2 where we discussed event reactive to get more hint. All right, have fun.